and actually watch this and make it another day. So that's always great. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy the class and you join the next classes. Super important that I realize that I always forget to say, I always say it at the end. Please, if you post any pictures of our class on Instagram or anywhere on social media or in group chats, whatever it is, please make sure to tag me at Stephsbelly. And if you know of anyone that would enjoy these classes, please spread the word. Anyone is able to join wherever they live, any time zone, anyone, no discrimination. Whoever wants to join is able to join our class. And that's about it. So I'm just going to repeat one more time those 4 things that I said before, because I do know there's a few more people that just joined us. So make sure that you preheated your oven to 350 degrees. You added water to your pot and start boiling that water. Put it on high heat. Put your skillet to preheat on medium low. We're going to bring it up after. And peel your 2 carrots. Okay, and as you can see, I have my tripod here, my situation. So we're gonna be going back and forth between cameras. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna move over to this camera over here. Everyone should be able to see. Let's just make sure it's nice and focused. Give me 1 second, so sorry. There we go. Okay, all right guys, so we're actually gonna start first with our plantains because I wanna chop these up and put them in our water. That's why I wanted it to start boiling already. And by the time that we finish chopping these up, we're gonna put them straight into the pot, okay? And I say this in all my classes, I always like to have a little garbage bowl nearby so I can just dump the garbage right in there and I don't have to go back and forth to my garbage, okay? So I'm actually gonna be using 2 very ripe plantains and 1 plantain that's still not 100% ripe, but it's still gonna work. And someone had asked me before that they told me that their plantains are still very green. So I told them not to worry about it. You can still use it because anyways, we're gonna be boiling our plantains. They're gonna get soft, but it's not gonna be as sweet. So if you wanted to add a little bit of sugar later on to make it a little sweeter, you can go for it. Okay, so if you have a question, I prefer if you can just unmute yourself and ask me so I don't have to go into the chat. But Karina, I see you have a question. So please let me know what your question is.
Hola, los plátanos no estaban maduros y compramos los que ya están en...
Espérate, perdón, I muted you by accident. Ok, Karina, dime otra vez.
Hola, los plátanos no estaban maduros y compré los congelados.
Perfecto.
Igual los tengo que hornear porque no los dejé congelados, ya están blanditos y están afuera, pero ¿hay que hornearlos igual o no?
Sí, porque hay que cocinarlos. So igual lo vas a poner ¿cómo se dice? Boil. Bueno, sí dice, if it's, solo lo voy a explicar en inglés so everyone can understand. If it says that it's cooked, then you're good. Just leave it to the side, and when we start mashing it, you'll just mash your plantains, okay?
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Awesome, guys. So
are we gonna need all the 6 of them if they're big? Like if they're really big?
If they're really big, you don't have to use all 6. I'm actually gonna be doing half of the recipe, so I'm just gonna use 3. But if you feel like they're very big, you can use 4 or 5, whatever you feel comfortable using, okay? Awesome. All righty. Again, guys, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. So let's get going. So I'm just gonna use my knife and chop off both of the ends of our plantain. And very, very carefully, I'm gonna just do a nice slit through the plantain with my knife. You're gonna realize that these are much softer than the green plantains. And you're just gonna peel it just how you would peel a banana. Okay, this comes off very, very easily. All right, and straight into our garbage bowl. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my 3 plantains or with your 6 plantains. If you're doing the full recipe, you're gonna be cutting all of your 6 plantains right now. All right, so for this one, since it's not completely ripe, I'm actually going to make a few slits through it just to make the peeling process a little bit easier. Okay, but again, it peels very easily like a banana when they're ripe. When they're green, it's very tough. Awesome, so you're gonna remove that. Move on to your next plantain. You're gonna cut off both of the ends. Okay, and just make a slit right through the middle. And peel it just like you would peel a banana. So if you just joined us, welcome. You should have your oven preheating to 350 degrees. you should have your water in your pot, okay? And you should be preheating that water to high heat so it starts boiling. Mine is almost boiled, so we're gonna chop these up and put it in. And also, we're peeling our carrots, okay? We have our carrots peeled. And preheat your skillet, a few steps. All right, guys, so this is gonna get boiled. So I'm really just gonna chop these into rounds. You can make them big, you can make them small, but they're gonna get completely boiled and softened. So it doesn't matter how big. The smaller you cut them, the faster they will cook. So you don't want them to be too big. Okay, so you see I'm making them not too big, not too small. And don't worry about perfectly cutting it because these are gonna get mashed anyways. Alrighty. So my water has boiled, okay? So I'm gonna put these into my water, okay? And you guys are gonna notice I'm gonna move our tripod later over to the skillet, but right now I'm just gonna move my plantains over and put them straight into my boiling water, okay? And we're gonna boil these. I'm actually gonna put the timer to like 15 minutes. But as soon as the plantains have softened, they're gonna be ready to go. But again, it really depends on how ripe your plantains are, how many plantains you have in the water. So all that is gonna change the amount of time that these are gonna cook. So actually I put too much water in my pot, so I'm gonna just pour some out. Because when it starts boiling a lot, it can overflow. So you just wanna make sure that the water is covering the plantains, but nothing overflows. All right, I'm just gonna put a timer over here for about 15 minutes, and then we'll check on them. Awesome. Again, guys, if anyone has any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away. All right, so let's continue chopping our vegetables, okay? So we're gonna chop the red onion first and start cooking it, because I actually wanted to start just on low heat to start cooking. So that's why I wanted you guys to preheat your skillet. So here we have our red onion, okay? And like always, it has two sides. You wanna make sure that the side with the stems, the one that looks like this is the side that you wanna make sure that it stays on, okay? So the other side is the one you're gonna chop off, okay? We're gonna be using the whole onion, and then you're gonna cut it right down the middle, okay? Giving you two halves. And then you're just gonna peel the skin right off. Okay, if it's too tricky, many times the peel doesn't wanna come off, so you're gonna wanna remove that first layer. It all depends on your onion. Awesome, and if you have your garbage bowl nearby, like me, just dump the peel right into that garbage bowl. And I'm gonna take off the other peel. You guys can see I have no patience, so I just always end up ripping off that first layer to remove the peel. Alrighty, and now let's start chopping this up. So since this is gonna cook down, this is gonna be different from the ceviche, okay? It doesn't really matter if it's too big or too small because it's gonna cook anyways, but you wanna give this a nice dice, okay? I'm just cleaning my area in between, okay? And I've showed these before in my classes, I'm gonna show it again. You're gonna wanna do a few cuts this way, okay? In the onion, in the half of the onion, just like that. You don't wanna go all the way through because you want it to stick together, okay? Just like that. And then you're going to cut it the opposite way, like this, and do a few cuts, okay? And this is gonna help it dice much easier. Alrighty, and then you're just gonna start dicing, okay? And then just like that, okay? How I said before, this is gonna cook down, so don't worry if the pieces are too big. You don't want them to be too big, but a nice dice is more than fine. All right, and then here I always end up doing a few more lines just to not waste this onion, just like that, and that goes into the garbage. All right, now let's cut that other side. I actually have And I bought these in Crate and Barrel. They're just plastic plates. Well, they're called manila plates. And I just use them to put my ingredients that I'm cutting right in there. So after when I start cooking, I have them ready to go, and I don't have, and then my cutting board is not overflowed with ingredients. All right, so now let's move on to that other half. Okay, we're gonna do that same method. Make a few cuts this way. Okay, just be careful with your fingers. This is a very hard onion. All right, so a few cuts this way, and then a few other cuts the opposite way, just like this. All right, and then we're gonna start dicing it. Okay. And then we're gonna do a few more cuts over here to not waste our red onion. Just like that. Alrighty, so your skillet should be heated already. We're gonna keep it at low heat. I actually just wanna start cooking our onions. So once we continue cooking in a few minutes, our onions are gonna be ready. So I'm actually going to bring the skillet over here and show you guys what I'm gonna do. So just give me 1 second. I'm gonna put this here so nothing gets burned. All right, so my skillet is preheated. That's why I have my trivet right under it. I'm just gonna add a little bit of oil. Okay, this is some olive oil. And if your skillet is hot, you're gonna feel like the heat coming out, and just add the red onion right in there. Okay, so we're gonna keep it on low heat because we're not gonna have our eye on it the whole time since we're gonna continue chopping our vegetables. Okay, but with a wooden spoon, you just wanna give it a little bit of a mix. Okay, and I'm gonna bring this back to my heat. So I just wanna show you guys what it's gonna look like. Okay, but please make sure to keep this on medium-low heat because we're not gonna have our eye on it the whole time. All right, and if you also wanna look at your plantains, my water's overflowing a little, so I'm just gonna pour some out, but these should start getting soft already. It's been 5 minutes, so I think in 5 minutes, these should be almost ready. All righty, so just give your onions a little mix. And now let's continue cutting our vegetables, okay? So we're gonna start with our carrots, all right? So your carrots should be peeled, okay? You wanna cut both ends of the carrots off, just like that. And all of our vegetables today, we're cutting it the same way. We're dicing them, okay? So when I dice my carrots, usually carrots are very thick on one side and then start getting smaller. So I just cut it in half to make sure that, so at the end, all of my pieces are equal. So on the big piece, you're just gonna cut it in half like this, and then actually make another cut to each of the halves. So you end up with four slabs of carrots, okay? And the smaller end, you're just gonna cut it one time through the middle, okay? And then you're just gonna make them into like sticks, because remember, we're gonna dice them. So you're gonna create a couple of sticks, just like this, like that. Right? And then now, since they're all into sticks, now I'm gonna start dicing them, all right? You want them to be sort of the same size as the onion, so everything is uniformed and looks the same. But again, you're the one that's eating this, so if it's not perfect, don't worry. All right. I'm actually gonna lower my heat for my plantains. All right, and then you have a plate nearby, just take your carrots and put them on that plate. And let's move on to that second carrot. You're gonna do the same thing we just did to the first one. You're gonna do the same thing to the second one, okay? So you're gonna cut off both ends of the carrot, throw those out. You're gonna cut your carrot sort of down the middle, okay? Then cut the big piece in half. Then those two pieces into halves again. And actually, before finishing this cut, I'm gonna give my onions a little mix, okay? Again, they're on low heat, so they're not gonna burn on us, but you do wanna give it a little mix, okay? Now back to our carrots, right? We have these into slabs just like this. Then the smaller piece, we just wanna cut in half, okay? And then these pieces, we're gonna cut them into nice sticks so we can finish dicing our carrots. Okay, just like that. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask anything. It could be about this recipe, it could be about cooking in general. So now we're dicing our carrots. Just like that. You want it to be similar to the size of the onions. Alrighty. And let's just put this on in a plate or somewhere on the side. You want to make sure you have enough room on your cutting board to continue cutting. All right, so the next thing we're gonna cut is our garlic, all right? And when I'm cooking and I'm gonna be using garlic, I love to just use this pre-minced garlic, all right? It's in olive oil, you just take a spoon, you add it to your food, and you don't have to worry about cutting a garlic. But I do wanna show you guys how to cut a garlic if you're using fresh garlic, okay? So here I just have one garlic clove. I'm gonna use my knife and I'm gonna use the fatter end of my knife is gonna go right on top of the garlic clove. And then I'm gonna use my hand, the palm of my hand, put it right on top and squeeze that garlic down, okay? That's gonna crack the garlic. You're gonna smash it and it's gonna be easy to remove the peel, okay? And then you're gonna do the same method you just did with the carrots. You're gonna slice this, okay? And then just dice it but this, you wanna make sure that you dice it very small. All right, so you're gonna probably need to cut this a few times going back and forth. I'm gonna be using a mix of fresh garlic and a little bit of this minced garlic that comes ready. And we're actually going to add this straight into our onions, guys, okay? So if you wanna get close to your skillet, go towards the onions and just add this garlic right in there. So I'm just gonna take this. You know what, I'm gonna bring the onions over here so you guys can see. Okay, so our onions, they're cooking down, all right? We're on low heat, so they're still gonna be a little hard, but you probably see that they're a little bit more translucent, a little softer, all right? And now you're just gonna add in that garlic that you cut. How I said before, I'm gonna be using a mix of fresh garlic and that minced garlic. So I'm just gonna add a nice spoonful of this garlic right in here. Just like that. I like it very garlicky. If you don't like garlic, you don't need to add too much of it. I wouldn't recommend to not add anything at all, but you do wanna add a little bit. All right, and just mix in your garlic into your onions. Okay, and the moment that the garlic touches the hot skillet, you're gonna smell that. So, alrighty, so I'm gonna take this back over there to my fire. Okay, and just take a minute, guys, to check on your plantains. All right, mine seem to be almost ready. So if yours are ready, yeah, mine are definitely ready. So I'm actually gonna turn off my fire. I'm gonna take a colander, all right? All right, you wanna take something that looks like this, and you're just gonna dump the plantain straight into here so you drain the liquid out. Alrighty, make sure to give your onions and your garlic a little mix. Remember, this is still on medium low.
How do we know when the plantains are ready?
Just put your fork into it, and if your fork can easily come in and out, they're ready to go, because you just want to be able to mash them. Okay, and I'm gonna show you in a second. All right, so here are my plantains, guys. You can see they're super soft, right? You just put your finger in, not your finger, sorry, don't put your finger, you're gonna get burned. You put your fork in it, and if it's soft and you can mash it, it's good to go. If yours is ready, you can go ahead and mash it. We're just gonna leave it on the side because we're gonna be using this after. Sorry, guys. I got an incoming call. Okay, so if your plantains are ready, just smash them. You'll be able to mash them after when they get cold, when they cool as well. All right, guys. So I'm gonna move my plantains over. We have one more vegetable to cut. We're gonna move over to our bell pepper. So I actually used one side of this bell pepper this morning, so I'm just gonna use the rest of it now. All right, so you basically wanna use the stem, this little green thing in the middle, as your guidance, okay? So you're gonna hold it with your fingers and then just like shave or cut. There's a question? Does someone have a question? All righty. Okay, so you're gonna put your finger right here, and then you're just gonna cut around the stem. And then after, you'll be able to kind of put it down. The main thing is you don't want all these seeds to go everywhere. So you're just gonna cut around it. You could even peel off a few of the pieces at the bottom. But basically you do this so the seeds don't go everywhere. And then you end up with this, with the core, completely like this.
Are we gonna use a full one, or can I use like half of one that's already cut?
You could use a half one if you want. I'm using like 3/4 of one, so you're good. And I already chopped this before, but I had like half of a zucchini left over, so I'm actually just gonna throw it into the ground beef because, you know, why not? Extra veggies. But you can really put any vegetables in here. All right, guys. So now you want to make sure to remove the white from the pepper. So just very gently with your knife, you're going to remove it just like that. Right? So here's another one. You just use the tip of your knife, put it in between that piece and the flesh, and just gently take it off. I don't know why someone.
Stephanie,
Yes.
any special reason you don't use this tool to mince the garlic?
Say that one more time.
Any special reason you don't use this thing?
I just don't have one. That's why I don't use it. But if you have one, you can totally mash it like that. 100%. That's a garlic masher, which is great. You could totally use that. All right, guys. So before we continue chopping our red pepper, I'm actually going to add the carrots into the pot. So I'm just going to bring it over. All right. So far in our skillet, we have the red onion and the garlic, right? It should be looking like this. And now I'm going to add our diced carrots. Okay. The carrots are going to be the ones that take the longest to cook. You want to make sure you add these now so they have enough time to cook. All right. And just give it a nice mix. Make sure everything is well incorporated. Okay. And I'm just gonna take this back to my stove. And I'm actually gonna bring up the heat a little bit. Now you want it to be completely in medium, okay? Don't go yet to medium high because we don't want it to burn. But on medium heat is more than fine. So these, so the carrots can start cooking. And don't worry, guys, we're gonna move back. I'm gonna take the camera over there in a little bit. All right, let's go back to our red peppers. You want to make sure that you remove all of this little white pieces. And now we're just going to cut them into sticks and then dice it the same way that you cut the carrots. All right, so into sticks, just like this. And then dice them. So I'm actually going to cut all of it into sticks first and then dice it. For those of you that might have started a little bit later, make sure that your plantains are ready. Okay, they should be ready by now, so just keep an eye on that. As long as if you can put your fork into it and it comes out, they're ready to go because you just want to be able to mash them. They will still cook in the oven once we put it in the oven at the end. All right. So I know today's class is a little bit different than the past ones. We usually do everything step by step, but it takes a little bit longer. So today I'm trying to do many steps at one time. So later, definitely give me your feedback if you liked it this way or we should go back to doing a little bit slower like before. I'm just gonna go back to my skillet and give my carrots, onions, and garlic a good mix. And if you see that your carrots are too hard, you can add a little bit of water, but we'll get to that in a second. So now we're just gonna dice our red onion, just like this. I'm actually gonna do it in 2 batches, okay? Okay. Just cut it until it is all diced. And how I said before, you can use so many different vegetables in this meal. I had a half a zucchini left over, so I already diced that up, and I'm gonna add them when I add the bell pepper. If you wanted to add mushrooms, that also works. Really, whatever you have in your fridge. Alrighty, so I see everyone still cutting and stuff, so I'm gonna give you a little break while I just make sure that we're heading in the right directions, we're not missing any steps. Okie dokie. So make sure you give your carrots a nice mix. All right, and the last thing we're gonna do over here with our cutting board, because I wanna take our camera over to our skillet. You're going to chop your cilantro, okay? So since my cilantro is already chopped, I don't have much chopping to do. But if your cilantro is not chopped, you just wanna take your cilantro, okay? Remove the leaves from the stem and then just chop it up. So I'm gonna show you how to chop it. I'm gonna put a little bit of my chopped cilantro here and just give it an extra chop. Okay. You're just gonna put a little bit of your cilantro here. So if you don't have it chopped, I'll just say that one more time. You wanna take the stem, pretend like I have a stem in my hand. You're gonna hold the stem and just gently remove the leaves from the stem, and then you're gonna put it on your cutting board. Once you have it on your cutting board, you wanna kind of make a pile of your cilantro leaves, all one on top of each other, and then just take your knife and go back and forth and chop up the cilantro. So I actually want this to be a little finer, so this is perfect. I'm just gonna chop it a little bit, and then you'll be good to go. All right, guys, so I'm actually going to turn off this camera 1 second, and I'm gonna move us over to the skillet. So just give me 1 moment. If you have any questions, this is a great time to unmute yourself and ask me any questions you may have.
Should we start mashing the plátano?
Yeah, if you have it ready, you can start mashing it. Or you can just leave them to let them cool completely, and then we'll mash them in a little bit. Alrighty, so let me just make sure this is good to go right here. Perfect. Please ignore the mess back there that my plantain water overflowed. All right, so we're over here, right? So in our skillet, we have our onion, our garlic, and our carrots, okay? So I'm seeing that my carrots are still very hard. So I'm just gonna take about 2 tablespoons of water. All right, I have this cute little measuring cup. I'm just gonna put 2 tablespoons in here, and I'm gonna add that to my carrots, okay? And this water is just gonna help the carrots cook a little bit faster. You're gonna see that it's gonna start kind of like the vapor is gonna start coming up, the smoke. So this is just gonna help the carrots cook a little faster. And I'm actually going to take the lid of my skillet and just cover it. We're gonna leave this here for just 2 minutes to soften that carrot, okay? And then we're gonna add the meat. So in the meantime, just make sure you have your meat nearby. You're gonna use 1 package of meat. So the cool thing about this, and I said at the beginning, I'm only gonna be using half of, I'm gonna show myself over here again. I'm only gonna be doing half of the recipe, okay? But I'm actually gonna make the full recipe for the meat. So I'll probably end up using half of the meat today, and the rest of the meat, I'm gonna let it cool completely, and then I'm gonna store it in my freezer. So tomorrow or next week, you have the meat ready to go, and you just take it out, defrost it. You can stuff peppers with it. You can make another pastel. You can do the same pastel with potatoes, sweet potatoes. So it's always good to have in your freezer just ready-made food to make it very quickly. Any questions, guys? I think we're all good to go, heading the right direction. Let me
Hay
pin this.
pregunta.
Cuéntame.
¿Ya echaste el pimentón en la sartén? Creo que me lo perdí.
No, todavía no, todavía no. We're gonna,
Okay.
Después de la carne lo vamos a agregar.
Okay.
Sí, you're good. So far in our skillet, we only have, I lost myself. So far in the skillet, we only have onion, garlic, and the carrots, okay? All right, so let's go back. Perfect. Let's go back to our skillet, okay? Okay, so the carrots should have softened a little bit. Again, this is gonna continue cooking. So if the carrots are not completely softened yet, don't worry. So now we're gonna add the full package of the ground beef, all right? So bring over that package over, just open it up. So I'm actually going to, with my hands, take the piece, like take the ground beef and just put it into pieces all over. It's just gonna be easier to break it up once you actually start cooking it. Obviously, make sure that your hands are clean. I'm gonna give my hand a nice clean before I actually start cooking it. But it's just gonna be easier to mix everything together if it's all over the plate, all over the skillet instead of like one big clump of meat. So I'm just gonna say this again. In our skillet right now, we had onions, garlic, and carrots, and now we just added our ground beef. Let me give my hands a nice clean. And we're gonna start breaking up the beef. Okie dokie. So with your wooden spoon or any cooking spoon that you like to use, you're just going to mix this around and break up your beef, okay? I think I'm gonna have to change this to a bigger skillet. Yeah, sorry guys, give me 1 second. I thought the skillet was gonna be big enough. But you just wanna make sure that you have enough room so everything browns. I'm just gonna add a little bit more olive oil so nothing sticks. And then add everything right in there.
No, es que no.
Questions?
Sí, ¿por qué cambiaste el sartén?
No, yo lo cambié porque no tenía suficiente espacio para mezclar todo bien.
Okay.
That's just me. You don't have to change it. It was just me. I thought I had enough room in the other skillet. I'm actually gonna make this a little warmer so it heats quickly. But right now you're just gonna use your wooden spoon and break up the clumps of the meat. So you have small pieces of meat. It's gonna take me a few. See, you're gonna put it up to medium-high heat, guys. Bring up your heat to medium-high heat. Thank you for that question. Vamos a subir el fuego a alto medio. I don't know if that's the correct term, but medium-high heat. And you're gonna see that once, you're gonna know that your ground beef is cooked when it's brown, okay? Just like that. So now you see why I changed my skillet. You have much more room to break it into small pieces, to move everything around. Okay. You want to use the back of the wooden spoon to break down those clumps. We haven't seasoned, we haven't done anything. We're going to do that. And once the meat is finished cooking, we're going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. All righty. So we're not gonna add anything else to this until the beef is completely cooked. Okay, so just take a few minutes to break down the clumps, to mix everything together. And you're gonna notice ground beef or just ground meat in general cooks very, very quickly. All right, we're almost there. Alrighty, so now you're gonna bring your bell peppers, okay? We cut the bell pepper. You definitely want to give this a few minutes to really break it up. You don't want big clumps. Okay, so this is good for me. I'm just gonna bring my red peppers, my diced red peppers over. So remember that I said before that I had a half of a zucchini left over, so I'm gonna add that in right now. If you don't have that, don't worry. This is just something that I'm adding extra. So it's really not necessary. I just didn't wanna throw that zucchini out. So you're gonna be adding the red peppers, okay? You're gonna be adding the full can, the 8-ounce can of tomato sauce. If you have a bigger can, just measure out 1 cup. You're gonna add all of that in there, okay? Just like that. And now a good amount of salt, okay? The recipe, whenever I use salt, I never measure it, but the recipe calls for 1.5 teaspoons, okay? I'm just gonna get a nice big pinch of salt. And you're gonna try this afterwards anyways. So about that much of salt. I'm gonna put that everywhere, actually a little bit more, okay? And some black pepper. Alrighty. I'm gonna add all, like I said, we're gonna taste this before we actually assemble everything. So if it needs more salt, we will add that later on. All right, now just mix everything together. Right, make sure everything is well combined. This is a very, very simple dish, right? The flavors aren't too crazy, very light. Okay. You're gonna see that it's a little bit watery because of that tomato, but not too much. You do not want this to be watery. All right, want to make sure you give it a nice mix.
Stephanie,
Yes.
¿puedes repetir un poco todo lo que, después de que la carne se puso marrón?
Claro que sí. So, lo voy a repetir en inglés, ¿ok? ¿Está bien?
Sí, perfecto. Perdón.
Buenísimo. Okay, no, don't worry. I'm just going to repeat what we've done so far, okay? So we sauteed our onions, garlic, and carrots. Then we added in the ground beef. All right, you know, cooked down the ground beef. You made sure there weren't any clumps. And then I added in the red pepper, the tomato sauce, salt, and pepper. That is it, okay? How I said before, I had an extra zucchini, half of a zucchini that I used during lunchtime, so I just chopped it up and added it in here. All right. All right, guys, so after mixing this all together, I'm going to get the lid of this skillet and cover it, okay? We're gonna cook this for about 5 minutes, all right? And since it's covered, the steam in here is gonna make sure all of the veggies finish cooking. So I'm actually gonna put a timer here for 5 minutes. Let's make it 6. All righty, and now I'm actually gonna take everyone back. Oh wait, one last thing, guys. So sorry, we're also gonna add in the cilantro. So before we cover that up, just add in your cilantro. Okay, just add in your cilantro right in there. If you want some extra cilantro to garnish on top at the end, you can. Just give this a nice mix. And then we're gonna cover it one more time. I actually want to add a little bit more cilantro. It didn't chop up too much. Okay, there we go. Cilantro gives it a really nice, fresh taste. So mix it all up really well. Alrighty, and once everything is mixed, you want to make sure it's really nice and combined. Awesome. So now I'm going to cover it again with my lid, and we're just going to let this cook for about 5 minutes. All right. So the steam in here is going to cook all of our veggies. Okay, guys, I'm going to turn this camera off one more time because I'm going to take you back to where I was because we're going to start working on our plantains. So if your plantains are ready, just put them in a bowl. We're going to start mashing that up, add a little bit of salt, and a little bit of olive oil. Let's turn that on. Perfect. Okay. Please ignore the mess that we have over here. I don't think anyone can ever cook and it's really not messy. All right, so we have our plantains here. I'm gonna add a nice pinch of salt and a little drizzle of olive oil or any kind of oil, okay? The oil is gonna make it nice and velvety and the salt is just gonna give it some nice flavor. So a nice pinch of salt, a little bit of olive oil or any kind of oil. And with your fork, you're just gonna mash it up and mix it all together. You want this to be nice and smooth, so take some time. I'm actually going to take a potato masher. If you don't want to clean extra tools, just use your fork. But I want this to be nice and smooth, so I'm going to use my potato masher. Just like that. If you guys have any questions, we're almost done with this. And I know a few people started a little bit later. So if you're not caught up and you have a question, please let me know. We are
Stephanie.
almost done. Sí.
¿Esto se está grabando?
Sí.
Ok, para hacerlo, gracias.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So again, you want to mash it really well so it's nice and smooth. You want it to be like mashed potatoes. All righty. Okay, and if you want to give this a taste, you can, okay? Because if you feel like it needs a little bit more salt, you can add a little bit more salt. Remember, since these are ripe plantains, it's going to be very sweet. So you might want to add a little bit more salt so it's not too sweet, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add just one more little sprinkle of salt. And how I always say, the great thing about savory food is that you can make it your own. So if you like it sweet, you don't need to add more salt. And I also said this at the beginning. Someone had asked me that they told me that they only had green plantains. Okay, so in this step right now, and if you only use green plantains, you can try it. And if you want it to be a little bit more sweet, you can add a little bit of sugar, some brown sugar, some stevia, some Splenda, whatever you want to make it a little sweeter. But that's totally optional. All right, I'm just gonna check on my skillet one more time. We're still keeping it covered. Just wanna give it a nice mix. Make sure that all the veggies are getting nice and cooked. So I personally like my vegetables to have a little bit of texture, okay? But if you want yours to be a little bit softer, you might want them to cook down a little bit. But my carrots have a little bit of a crunch. But this still has 2 minutes. So now we're gonna move on to assembling. Before we do that, let me just give this a nice clean. Okay. Alrighty. So you can use any type of baking dish, okay? I'm gonna be using this Pyrex. If it goes all the way to the top, awesome. If it doesn't matter, it's still gonna work. You can use, again, any type of baking dish. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm actually gonna take a little bit of cooking spray and just put some cooking spray all over my baking dish. I have some coconut oil spray. You can use Pam, you can use olive oil, whatever you want. You just wanna make sure that you cover it so nothing sticks to your baking dish. All right, and now you're going to take half of your plantain mixture, okay? One second. Change of plans, I'm gonna use a smaller one. But the same thing we were just doing, okay? You're just gonna put some baking oil, some spray, right there. Okay, and you're gonna put half of the plantain mix. Okay, you want it to have a little bit of height, so that's why I'm using a smaller one. All right, you just want to spread that out into an even layer in your baking dish. Remember just to put half because you're gonna we're gonna add in the meat now, and then you're gonna do the other half on top. Okay. So you want it to have one nice even layer of the plantains. Now let's go back and check on our meat. I'm actually gonna bring it towards us because mine is ready. I'm gonna say this one more time, guys. If you want your vegetables to be a little bit softer, let it cook for a few more minutes. I like mine to have a little bit of texture. And remember, you're gonna put it in the oven, so it's gonna cook a little longer in the oven as well. So I'm just gonna bring my ground beef over. All right, and with a spoon, I'm just gonna get a bigger spoon so it's easier. You're just going to add the ground beef right on top of the first layer of plantains, okay? I'm only gonna be using half of this. I made the full recipe, and the other half, I'm gonna let it cool and put it in the freezer. Okay, but you want to do a generous amount of beef, right? Because you have a bunch of veggies, protein. So you want to add a good amount. Okay. Right on top. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. So me personally, I want to have more ground beef than plantain. So I'm going to add, again, a really nice thick layer of that ground beef. But you do you. This is your meal. If you want a little bit more plantain, more than ground beef, then just make the ground beef layer a little thinner. Awesome. Alrighty, this looks good. Let me just add a little bit more right over here. I want it to be nice and even. And now we're gonna go in with that last layer of the plantain. You're just gonna put it right on top. But you don't wanna put it right in the center. You wanna take it and sort of put a few dollops all over. So it's gonna be easier to spread it out. Just like that.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hello.
If my meat is a little bit more waterier than yours, what do you recommend I do?
I would say to use a spoon that looks like this, okay, that has a little bit of holes. So when you take the ground beef, okay, you can actually remove a little bit of the liquid and then put it in your casserole.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you have that. If not, you can gently just pour out the liquid into your skillet if you don't have a spoon like this. But if you have a spoon like this is gonna be the best option.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for asking. Alrighty, so back to this last layer. Again, just dollop it around and very gently spread it out. You want to make sure that the plantain completely covers that ground beef. Just like that. Okay, and if you'd like, you can use your fork and make little lines to make it look prettier. Or if you don't want the lines, you can use the back of a spoon and just kind of, make it straight like that. But whatever you like, make it your own. I'm actually gonna make these little lines. Okay, and the last step before going into the oven, just 1 second. You want to make this look amazing. Perfect. So now I'm just gonna get a bowl. Okay, I'm gonna crack an egg right inside my bowl. Okay. And then you're gonna add about a tablespoon of water into your egg, okay? We're creating something called an egg wash. Whenever you see in any recipe that it says egg wash, that means that it has, for every egg inside, it has 1 tablespoon of water, okay? So I just use this little cup that I have. I put 1 tablespoon, I'm gonna add that right in there, okay? So if you were using 2 eggs, for example, you would add 2 tablespoons of water. But since we're just using 1 egg, I just put 1 tablespoon. You're just gonna beat this together to create our egg wash. You wanna beat it really, really well so you can.
If we're doing the one with 6, well, almost 6 plantain, like the full everything, should we just do 2 or 1?
1 egg is more than enough.
And what do we do? The egg, what else?
Say that again, sorry?
Like, can you repeat like what to do with the egg?
Yes, of course. So in the egg, you're just gonna crack 1 egg into your bowl and add a tablespoon of water and then just mix it together. Okay, this is called an egg wash. So whenever in any recipes you see that it calls for an egg wash, it's just equal parts, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon. You just mix it together. You wanna make sure you break the egg really, really well. All right, and then you are going to take a brush, pastry brush or a silicone brush, whatever kind of brush you have. This is the one I have, okay? You're just gonna dip your brush into the egg wash. You're not gonna use the whole egg wash. You're just gonna use enough to cover the plantain. So you're just gonna very gently paint the egg wash right on top of the plantain. That's gonna help the plantain get nice and golden brown in the oven. So you're not gonna end up using all of that egg wash, just enough to cover it. If for some reason you don't have a brush, that always happens to me around Passover time, I don't have a kosher for Passover brush, you can just pour a little bit of the egg wash in there and with your hands very gently spread it around. But if you have a brush, definitely use the brush. Okay, just like that. Make sure you cover all the parts so it gets nice and golden brown. And that is it, guys. Now this is just gonna go into the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes and then dinner is ready. So actually what I'm gonna do, my husband isn't home yet, so I'm gonna cook this for the 20 minutes and then later in about an hour when we're ready to eat, I'm going to cover it with foil and then put it back into the oven for like 5-10 minutes just to completely, like to warm it up, not to reheat, like not to cook more, okay? And that is it, guys. Dinner is ready. This is just gonna go into the oven for 15 to 20 minutes and we are done. Let me just change this back to the main camera. If anyone has any questions, I know many of you joined us a little bit later, so if you're still working, I'm gonna be right here. I'm not going anywhere. If you're done, you can totally leave, you can stay, you can ask any questions you'd like, but I'm gonna be right here. I'm actually gonna put this into the oven. But this is done, guys. So thank you again so much for joining us. Please take pictures. You can email it to me. If you put it on Instagram or any kind of social media, please tag @Stephsbelly. If you think of anyone that would want to join this class, please share, pass on the information so they can join us next time. All right, our next class is going to be in 2 weeks. And in the email, I'm actually going to put a few options so you guys can tell me what you want to make next time. But that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining. Andrew, I see you there. Lev, hello.
So much. This was so fun. We did it
I
together.
am so happy to hear that.
Steph, you are awesome.
No, thank you for coming, guys. Thank you, Andrew. Nice to see you. And nice to meet you too, Lev. Thank you for coming. Awesome. I'm just gonna.